Welcome, Tyler Has Words here. I wanted to talk today about the English language, old school, new school, kind of differences. What's going on there? Is it better now? Is it worse? Let's get going. When it comes to English, I'm saying that older is better. Okay, before everybody has a conniption, which could happen. I might even have one myself. I was thinking about it. I was reading an older book today, some Charles Dickens or something, and I was like, this is amazing. But then it started getting me thinking about the people that he's describing, and how could they even read this with any sort of, skill level? They're old. There's no, they didn't even have like school back then. I don't know. Or did they? Let's see, I don't know. Alright, so let me make my generalization clear about English, okay? I'm talking about after Shakespeare, which was like 1600, that's Elizabethan times. And we could go back to Chaucer. That's pretty old school though, and they were still saying ye more than he or she or be. So let's just stay with after Shakespeare and before or around Samuel Johnson came out with a dictionary in 1755. That means that pretty much enough people were writing and reading English to write a friggin' dictionary, Otherwise, unless he just wanted to write a dictionary, if that's the case, Samuel Johnson's a big loser. Anyway, and he's not. He's a smart dude. Okay, so let's say that English as we know it, or minus texting and whatever, came out around, it was pretty much solidified by 1700, I want to say. Yeah, that's a long time ago, I know, and they were still saying things that we don't say, and we're saying things that they don't. Okay, got it. But they were reading great stuff, and they were hearing great stuff. I would say the written word was more descriptive, my opinion, more evocative, more artistic. There was poetry, like in the prose, and prose in the poetry, and I'll get into that a little bit. Now, today, is there still that? When you pick up your bestseller, is there some poetry in your prose and blah, blah, blah? Of course. Not a lot, but of course. Let's just say your average bestseller today doesn't have the language level of your Charles Dickens or something like that. But we're talking classics versus just your average bestseller. That's not really a fair comparison. Okay. But let me get back to my historical analysis of this, though. You could dispute all of my claims here that maybe English is better now, but I'll run it back just so you know I'm not coming from a complete place of nowhereville. Have you ever heard or read accounts of letters of soldiers in World War II to their wives? It's lovely. World War I, it's probably even better. Go back to the Civil War and your heart will break from the eloquence and lovely. It's just Lovelyville. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old romantic. Nobody's ever accused me of that. Then you go back to Revolutionary War, so that's 1700s, and you've got Lieutenant Josiah Vander Nix. He's sending home stuff, to the missus that would make, average romance novels look like love letters and crayons. So these are good examples because they're normal people. These are the people that were living their lives. I mean, soldiers maybe, I don't know on what scale they were, probably all points of the socioeconomic scale, back in the day, World War I, II, and Revolutionary War, those examples. But I'd say it's just an average, cross-section, okay? So, all right. So if you want more examples to back up my thesis, then look at popular speeches and books from back in the day, like A Tale of Two Cities, and that was mad popular, and it was 1859, I believe. Gettysburg Address. Obviously, that made an impact. 272 words, but it got the job done. Okay, counter arguments. English is not degenerating. It's getting better. Maybe we're seeing a type of evolution. Most things are evolving. That's kind of what we hear about. Most things are evolving. We're getting better. People are getting taller. People run faster. They talk gooder. I don't know. The question is, how could people even understand, awesome language like the Gettysburg Address back in the day, unless they could speak it themselves, or at least read it themselves and comprehend it? I mean, if I read the Gettysburg Address now to a lot of people, I think they'd be like, "What does that mean?" Unless they obviously didn't know the content already. I don't know. Were people smarter back then? Probably. It's a question. They certainly didn't know any quantum physics. But ask yourself today how much the average person knows about quantum physics. Then ask yourself how many quantum physicists have you ever seen together in the same room? Never. Unless you're a quantum physicist, and you're probably sick to death of yourselves. These are just questions, and I know that questions are hard because they involve admitting that you don't know, which I have to do all the time, almost on a minute-by-minute basis. Okay, so what about ancient Rome? They were, worshiping Jupiter and a bunch of psychopaths, and they wanted to run around the streets, and the streets had, really rocky. I don't know how they even did that with the sandals. But they were probably smart too. And what about Babylon, Egypt, Chinese? All the way back to the cavemen. So this is why I take a couple words and bring it all the way back to the cavemen. Okay, so I've read a lot of books, obviously, which means I know a couple of things, but generally nothing. And I know how to be intellectually honest, and I also know when I'm being intellectually lazy and honest, or some combination of the two. Okay, so let's take the cave bro. We're going all the way back, because we're doing all these assumptions. I'm just trying to figure out who was smart, why they were smart, how this has happened. How do we get here? How do we get to the point where I can speak somewhat ridiculously, having gotten all this information? It was conveyed, it came through all these channels, but we're told a lot of anthropological, historical reasons for everything. But I just have questions more. The more I know, the more questions I have. All right, so when I think about Cave Bro, I get that one image, caveman image. He's hairy, grunting, and he's got a club, and he's just knocked somebody out, some cave lady, and he's dragging her back, and it's horrible, and I don't even want to think about the rest. Did that happen a lot? Was that was that part of the caveman SOP? Maybe, but we don't know. You don't know. But here's what we do know about the caveman. He was kind of an artistic guy. He had paintings on the walls. He was a survivor, so that's awesome because we're here. He had a cave. And if I'm being honest, I don't think he needed a club to get the girl, because he had a place of his own. He had a condo. Warm kitchen. Artistic. He's probably pretty sensitive, actually. He drew stuff on the walls. I think the ladies would probably go to him. Caveman over field man. Warmer. That's what I take away from reading from reading an old book today, and thinking about some old love letters. So that's it for me today. Tyler Has Words. If you want to read, my thoughts, go to tylerhaswords.com, and you can find all my ramblings there. God bless. See you after.